United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening, everyone. Selectman McQuaid won't be with us tonight. He's ill. Is there any public comment from the board?
I have a couple of things. One, the pancake breakfast is tomorrow morning, 8:30 to 10:30 at the Eagle House. Great pancakes, sausages, coffee, pastry. Come on down. I would request that I could read a public comment from my husband who's at a sewer commission meeting.
Sure.
Okay, thank you. This public comment is from Carl Luck. I was very encouraged at a recent Finance Committee budget review meeting to hear the town manager report that there is, and I quote, a lot of effort to examine the alternative to replacing the gas and diesel tanks. It was also reported that both chiefs, the DPW director, and the town manager are working on this. The Finance Committee chair also stated that two members were also investigating the cost side of this issue and offered for them to play a more integral role in this investigation. I was less encouraged by the town manager's somewhat luke acceptance of this offer. As pleased as I was to hear all this, I still have 3 concerns and 1 suggestion that I hope are given serious consideration by the town manager. 1. It sounds like the ongoing investigation is focused on the alternative, a single program offered by WEX Inc. that was brought to the town's attention by a resident, which has been used by Fitchburg since 2016. I would hope that whoever the task force is, that they would be chartered to look at all feasible alternatives, and perhaps a combination of several to provide redundancy if needed. 2. To ask the same 3 department heads and town manager to perform a cost-benefits analysis on a proposed alternate solution that they have already evaluated and recommended against may not be the most effective way to get all the facts and issues into the analysis. 3. As the outcome of this investigation into both cost and risk mitigation will be a direct result of what questions are asked, who is contacted, and finally a distillation of the data, there could be important new questions and ideas raised when the report and recommendations are made public. This could cause unnecessary conflict between the team and the citizens and delay or sink this capital request altogether. To address these concerns, I would respectfully suggest that at least 2 citizens who would be advocates for an alternate solution be added to the task force gathering the data. Without this, concerned residents would have no alternative than to independently do their own investigation, which would mostly be contacting the same people the task force would, but perhaps getting different and even conflicting information. If the residents' voices are not able to participate in the investigatory process, I fear a difficult hearing and/or discussion at town meeting. In short, I would suggest that the town manager make a public request for residents who question the current proposal to volunteer to become a part of this effort, and that 2 residents from this pool be selected to become members of the evaluation team. Of course, if this or something similar has already been considered and acted on by the town manager, that's great. And I only regret not having the opportunity to volunteer my time and experience to this important work. Thanks.
All right.
Yep, that's it. I don't know, I could think of something else if you want.
Yeah. You have anything, Ms. Adams?
I have something.
Sure.
And if I could have a copy of that so I can review the request.
Sure, I will ask him to email it to you.
Okay, thank you. I want to respond to comments made by Selectman Luck at both the March 5th Selectmen's meeting during public comment and the March 7th Finance Committee public comment regarding 2 positions in the fiscal 20 preliminary budget. I want to start off by saying next year I will give a briefing to the board prior to the preliminary budget presentation to Finance. In that respect, I do agree with Selectman Luck The process can be improved, and I will work towards that goal. I do want to add that I had sent out a detailed budget message to both Finance and the Board of Selectmen on February 12th, days prior to my preliminary budget presentation to the Finance Committee, that highlighted the new positions in the budget and did not receive any comments by the board at our next meeting on February 19th. Also, the board was purposely posted for February 14th, but only the chairman was able to attend. I followed the process that is outlined in the town charter, same as I have done the last 2 budget cycles, and the role of the town manager is to present a budget that reflects the needs of the departments that I administer as Chief Administrative Officer. My goal has and will continue to be to present a fiscally responsible budget that reflects the needs of all the departments against what is responsible and find efficiencies where possible. I would ask that any members of the board that have a concern to speak to me about it first, not speak about it publicly first. I have the same goal as members of the board, and that is to provide a level of professionalism and to perform my job in the best interest of the town.
Thank
All
you.
I have.
I didn't prepare any public statement, but after hearing both of them and after being at the charter review last week, I have to mention that I'm really dismayed with an awful lot of public comment and public criticism of volunteer town people in various capacities and paid town people in public, knowing that a lot of these issues haven't been worked privately, brought to somebody's attention, the people given an opportunity to respond to them. I don't know if it's a function of our national politics or not, but it's really disappointing to look at a town our size where neighbors come forward to do their job and do their job as best they can, and paid professionals get hired to do their job by screening committees, and then to have folks snipe at each other in public as opposed to working together to support the town and our objectives. I'll have something a little more formal to say at our next meeting after I've had a chance to kind of go through these facts. But I'm really disappointed, I am. Is there any public comment from the public? Yes, sir, in the back. Okay, the Lincolns?
We have happy stuff.
Good.
Pete and Debbie Lincoln, Hemlock Drive, Nuremberg. We've got great news for baseball fans. We've arranged to get the 2018 World Championship trophy to come to Lunenburg. Cooperation with the Red Sox, it'll be here on April 7th. That's a Sunday, from 2:30 to 4:30. And my better half will give you some of the details. We're an equal opportunity couple.
I'm pleased to say that in addition to making some news for the Lunenburg community and bringing them to the forefront, this is also a fundraiser for the Eagle House. It's being sponsored by the Eagle House supporters, and it will be for $5. You can have a picture taken for the entire family. So for $5, it can be anywhere from one person to your entire family. Bring your own camera. We will provide an opportunity for someone to take a picture for you, but please bring your own camera. We'll have the trophy there, and please come and take advantage of this wonderful opportunity. Lunenburg is on the map, folks.
Thank you.
Sounds like fun.
Lunenburg native and Red Sox historian Gordon Eads will be here to talk trivia with you all, and he's a great guy to chat with. It's also 2 days before the Red Sox open at home, so the timing of this is absolutely perfect. And kids will be psyched to see this trophy, which has been held by all the ball players, and went to Puerto Rico and is back again, coming to our town. So we'll hope to see you all there.
Do they get to take it home like the NHL does?
Yep,
Oh, cool.
it's been around. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, and thanks for all your effort to make that happen. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Clarence Floyd, 720 Goodrich Street. I see it's on the agenda tonight under old business, but I've been asked to come down here and talk about it, and I wanted to get it rolling right away before I forget half of what I want to talk about.
I know the feeling.
And it pertains to the annual town meeting perhaps having to take 2 days instead of 1. From what I've heard, and I don't think it's really been a decision made, we're talking Saturday, May the 4th, starting at 9 a.m., and I've heard a possibility of Monday, May the 6th at 7 p.m. at night. The people I've been talking to, they don't think that's right. If it's going to be a 2-day affair, they think that it should be 2 succeeding Saturdays. Some people have to work during the week. They may not be able to come over here doing, Monday night, because they got to get ready, or they may be working Monday night. So if it has to be done on, say, Saturday and then Monday night, a suggestion that many of them have made is that instead of a lot of the preliminary stuff that just gets passed anyway, being in the front, maybe we could move important things up to Saturday, like what are we going to do with the town clerk? The select board name, most of them don't really care about that. But they think that important things like the town clerk, if it's brought up on a Monday night at 8 o'clock, the people that really want to vote for it, a lot of them are not going to be here. I thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other public comment? Alrighty. Our first appointment is 7:05, the Cultural Council Arts Festival. Laura?
You guys got the, okay. Laura Brzozowski, 21 Francis Ave, and I'm here with the Lunenburg Cultural Council to get approval for the Lunenburg Arts Festival, which is this year going to be same weekend as last year, Saturday, June 8th, from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. on Memorial Drive. And a rain date of Sunday, the next day, June 9th, in case of severe inclement weather. It's going to be similar to last year's event, a little bit bigger. We'd like to get a few more artists in children's craft and activities. We'd like to have 2 stages this year. And we'd also like to use patios for the bathroom. I've been in contact with John Londa about that, and I need your approval for that as well, I guess.
Is John okay with that?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we worked out the rental fee.
Tommy, is that better than the senior center?
So
Location-wise?
last year, if you look at the map, it was spread out, and we had some of the vendors complain because they were very far from the bathroom. So
I know
this
that
year-
feeling too.
yeah, we'll have the library, which is open till 2, and then we can use patios. Plus, it's just nice to have more bathrooms. So, yep. If you guys have any questions.
Questions or comments?
Sounds like fun.
Okay.
Thank you very much for organizing this.
Can I get a motion?
I'll make a motion. Now, what do we need to make a motion for? That, to use the Passios bathrooms, or is,
Well,
No,
just
for the, hold the event.
okay.
to hold the event.
All right, I'd like to make a motion that the Board of Selectmen approve the Lunenburg Arts Festival to be on June 8th, Saturday, June 8th, 2019, rain date, June 9th. Do we need to do the bathroom thing too?
Might
No,
as well.
that's all
No,
right.
No, that's okay.
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 All right, anything else?
All right, then I would second that.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any
Good luck.
opposed? Good luck.
Do I need to get your approval to rent patios from you guys?
No, that John approached me about that.
Okay.
It's the rental cost is for the cost of the custodian.
Okay.
To keep
So
it
we're all
open.
set on the bathrooms. We don't need any more. Okay. Okay. Thank you very much.
Good luck.
Thank you.
guys there.
Okay, our 7:10 appointment is for Borrego Solar for a payment in lieu of taxes proposal for 190 Electric Avenue.
supposed to be.
Good evening. My name's Josh Farkas. I work for Borrego Solar. Nice to meet you, Heather. Thanks for emailing with me over the last couple of days. I'm representing a new project that's working its way through entitlement in town. It's a solar project. We recently received our planning board permit. I believe it was last week, maybe the week prior. I've actually had a site walk with Mrs. Luck, who joined that day. And basically, we are not done with Conservation Commission, but we've made a lot of steady progress and still have some work to do. And I recently learned that a solar pilot was in front of the board for the upcoming town meeting, and I wanted to see if there was an opportunity for Borrego, for our project, to basically replicate that same pilot. I had a chance to review it, and in the effort of keeping it simple and having a chance to get onto the warrant for this year, I'm more than happy with the terms that are in there. So I've provided a red line copy that basically changed nothing more than the company, the property address, system size, and all that. I can provide a digital copy of kind of a cleaner version, but I just wanted to get that in front of you this evening and see if there are any questions about the project, or to see if there's anything else I might need to do in order to take advantage of a previously negotiated document that I believe has been accepted or will be accepted, and see if I could piggyback on that effort.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
With me. So the process would be, so the pilot that you see before you is the same terms and language that was recently approved with Nexamp for the Northfield Road property. And this would still need to go to town meeting as an article, the upcoming meeting, for the selectmen to negotiate the terms of a pilot. So it gives, town meeting gives approval for the selectmen to negotiate those terms. So it could look like this, but that would fall after the town meeting vote.
Understand, okay. I thought it was a pre-negotiated document. Either way, more than
This
fine.
is the language, yeah, that's
Yep.
been approved by our town council, but yeah, we'd
By
have
town
to
council.
still
Okay.
go through that
So
process.
is that two separate warrants, one for Nexamp and one for this, or is it
Nexamp-
just one?
Nexamp was done
last one.
at a previous town meeting,
Okay.
Oh, I understand.
yes.
Okay.
So that was,
Yep.
had been approved, and that's why you were able to sign off on that pilot.
Fair enough. So this gives us authorization to sign off on a pilot, but we can say that it's the same language as the one they gave us approval
Right,
to sign
those,
off on last time.
yep, you can
Okay.
work that out after the
Become
town meeting.
secondary to just get the permission to negotiate.
Right, so the first step would be to get article on the town meeting coming up to get that.
Who submits that article?
It would be the board.
Okay.
Okay.
And there's a draft when we get to that draft warrant article.
All right.
So so do we need to do anything now, or will we do it when we're talking about warrant articles?
We can do it when we talk about warrant articles. So the option, if the board, in the alternative, if they didn't want to put an article on the town meeting warrant, it would have to be a citizen's petition. So we'd have to give a citizen enough notice to get it in by the March 25th deadline, if they so chose.
We're going to go over all the warrants later on, but is there any reason we can't vote this separate so that this gentleman can be on his way?
No, so then now the motion should be to accept the Borrego Solar,
To put a warrant article.
to put a warrant article on the May town meeting for the solar project?
For the
the
pilot
Borrego-
for this solar
For the
project.
pilot for the Borrego Solar project.
Correct.
Does that make
Second?
sense?
Sure, second.
Okay, any discussion?
No, I mean, if it's gonna be exactly the same as
Right.
the other one, it's pretty simple.
Sure.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None. Okay,
Thank you very much. I
so we're
appreciate
gonna work on all our warrant articles later on this evening,
it.
but
Okay,
unless you hear from us, you don't have to do any citizen petition work on that.
Okay.
wonderful.
Okay.
I don't know if you would like to, but so the town meeting is May 4th.
May 4th.
And once that warrant is finalized, we can send it to you, our office can, and you can see where it falls, but I can't predict what time.
Sure.
So,
Do you anticipate any additional back and forth between the two of us between now and then, or do you think this is,
I
this
think-
document is kind of gets us there?
yeah, after town meeting,
Yeah.
then we would reach out again, and then you could meet with the board to rediscuss it.
Okay, sounds great. All right, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Okay, our next item is the Cultural Council appointment of Stephanie Carlson to the Cultural Council, and there is a talent bank form in your packet.
Hi, so I'm Stephanie Carlson, 674 Flat Hill Road, and I would love to be on the cultural committee because I'm an artist, and I'd love to be more connected in town with the arts. So I have a BFA, and I work as an art therapist.
Superb.
This is simple. I would make a motion for Stephanie Carlson to join the Cultural Council.
Second.
Any discussion?
Thank you for stepping forward.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Have fun.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Superb. Town manager report.
So as a follow-up to our conversation about Nexamp's community solar available to Lunenburg residents, I spoke with Nexamp last week to discuss putting a joint promotional mailer to increase awareness about the program. And they're also going to hold 2 informational sessions in the month of May. Actually, that should read April, for residents to come hear about signing up for discounted electricity. The mailer will include details about the program, including that the discount is a 15% discounted rate on electricity, and it will be only available to Lunenburg residents during the first 45 days. The informational sessions will be on Wednesday, April 10th at 6:30 p.m. at the Lunenburg Middle School, High School Collaborative Room. And we're in the process of finding out which collaborative room, so I'll update everyone. Then that will be in the informational mailer as well that will go out to all residents. And Saturday, April 13th at 10 a.m. in the library community room.
Just a quick question. If somebody's already a part of the Nexamp one, they can't get another 15. You just get one of these, right?
As far as if you have separate accounts or on top of your same, no.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
Okay.
one.
Yeah, I know. I thought about that too. That'd be great. But
No, this opens it up to quite a few more people.
yeah, it
which is-
really
which is
does.
excellent.
And it is excellent, and I calculate my electricity costs carefully, and it does save you about 15%. It really does.
Next update, the family of Mr. Lionel Eads has donated a granite bench in his memory to be installed on the Whalum lakefront. Mr. Eads was a lifelong resident of Lunenburg for almost 56 years before he passed on February 23rd. As Mr. Eads fished on Lake Whalum, the children of Mr. Eads all worked at Whalum Park growing up, and Mr. Eads' wife walked along that lakefront on a daily basis for years. Therefore, the Whalum lakefront has a special meaning for the Eads family. The DPW has offered to install a bench at a date to be determined. Other updates, the Lincolns already had spoke about the Red Sox World Series trophy coming to the Eagle House on April 7th, 2:30 to 4:30. And another reminder of save the date for the dementia-friendly kickoff on Monday, May 20th at 6 p.m. in the Lunenburg Library. Just some meetings that I've attended. Today, I went to a meeting at the Dispatch Center in Devens for a presentation on FirstNet, which is a dedicated communications network tool that was created for and by public safety after 9/11. The federal government put out an RFP to create this network, and AT&T was the only bidder, and it was awarded the contract in 2017. Since then, every state has chosen to opt in, and this is another option exclusively for public safety. Chief Sullivan and the IT director, Steve Melandrinas, also attended this presentation. Finance Committee has budget meetings with the DPW at 7 p.m. and Lunenburg Public Schools at 8 p.m. this Thursday in the Joseph Bellotta Meeting Room, Town Hall. And I will be attending a dispatch negotiation session on March 14th.
I had one question about the bench.
Mm-hmm.
How much land does the town own on the lakefront?
I can find that out, but it is owned by the town, that lakefront area, where it would go.
Great.
Okay. So our first item of current business is a presentation and discussion on the town manager's preliminary budget.
Okay. And Could you press the projector for me? Thank you. Okay. Thank you. Here we go. Slowly coming into focus. So just some highlights from, I won't go through the full presentation as I believe you've watched the February 14th public hearing or presentation, but I want to give some highlights about the budget recommendation. So the timeline was the Finance Committee began meeting in September 2018. The Capital Planning Committee began in October 2018, met with departments in November and December. In November of 18 and February of 2019, Board of Selectmen meetings discussed fiscal 20 budget priorities and utilizing available tax levy. The town manager sent target budgets to departments in December, due back on January 10th. The Capital Planning Committee finalized fiscal 20 plan in January. And per the charter, the town manager presents the fiscal 20 capital plan and 5-year forecast at the end of January. The fiscal 20 budget message was sent out to the Finance Committee and Board of Selectmen on February 12th, and a summary published in the newspaper on February 15th. And per the charter, also the town manager presents a preliminary budget by mid-February. So the target budgets, some highlights included $60,000 for an assistant town manager / HR director. Under general government, $8,000 increase for updates to general code, which is the town clerk. $80,000 for an additional police officer for the police department. $58,000 for additional career firefighter for the fire department. $25,000 assessment increase estimate for regional dispatch. $50,000 for pavement management for DPW. Additional $40,000 for facilities, and $45,000 for a full-time recreation director. The recycling program included a target of additional $65,000 due to recycling market changes, $504,000 for a 2.5% increase for the Lunenburg Public Schools, $20,000 increase or a 2.5% increase for Monty Tech, and 8% or $186,000 increase for health insurance. The above target highlights included $8,000 more than the target for additional funds for election, census, and registration workers, a reduction of $5,000 from the target budget from the police, additional $92,000 more than the target to hire a career firefighter, associated costs and training for paramedic, and only funded overtime at 44%. The radio watch, additional $38,000 for weekend coverage for a desk officer at the public safety building, $60,000 over the target for stormwater related cost, and the Lunenburg Public Schools, their above target number was $629,000 over the target, which was a 5.9% increase at that time. The end of December. The preliminary budget that was presented on February 14th funded the target and above target requests for an assistant town manager / HR director, election, census, registration workers' salaries, and software costs. The library included an additional 2 hours a week for a staff librarian. The police, it funded the requested budget for an additional full-time patrol officer. The fire department, it funded the target budget and $16,000 of above target requests for the continuation of paramedic training for the 2 new firefighters, and more adequately addressed the overtime costs. Regional dispatch included additional $3,000 for desk officer coverage on holidays. The DPW included an additional $50,000 for pavement management, $40,000 for facilities, $20,000 for a part-time recreation director, and an additional $60,000 for stormwater. Recycling, it included 62,000 due to the recycling market changes. The health insurance was reduced to a maximum of 5% increase, or 116,183. And Monty Tech, the included still the preliminary recommendation because we didn't have an assessment amount at that time of a 2.5% increase, and included a 2.5% increase to the Lunenburg Public Schools. Due to the reduction in health insurance figure from 8 to 5%, the school, with what was labeled their level service request, now became a 3.04% increase, or 109,000 more than the target budget of 2.5. And the superintendent's recommended budget at that time, with the health insurance change, was a 5.5% increase, or 600,000 more than the target. Updates to the preliminary budget since the 14th were general government increase, and I give these updates to the finance that became aware of assessor software. There's going to be an increased cost for that software of $13,000. Regional dispatch, the assessment came in $3,000 higher than the preliminary estimate. Health insurance, the actual renewal decreased by 2.45%, which is a $64,000 decrease. Monty Tech assessment decreased by 4.8%, or a $60,000 decrease to the estimate. And the Lunenburg Public Schools, due to the 2.45 decrease in health insurance from 5 to minus 2.45, the school level service request is now a 2.14% increase, and the town manager target budget exceeds the level service budget by $74,000, and the superintendent's recommended budget is a 4.2% increase, or $334,000 more than the target budget. Currently in the process of providing the school an updated figure given the decreases in other areas. To highlight some personnel change or additions to the budget, the HR director, this is for a regular part-time HR director, meaning not 40 hours, equate to approximately 28 hours a week, and is being recommended based on priority need and create greater efficiencies. The library, additional 2 hours a week for one of the staff librarians. Police, see additional police officer that follows the 10-year long-term plan. The fire increases overtime cost to more adequately address shift coverages, and is still on target with the 4-year plan since 2 firefighters were hired in fiscal 19. In the parks, it adds a seasonal parks director at 19 hours a week based on the absence of any paid staff to perform administrative functions and programming needs of the Parks Commission. And just to go over the process that would be needed for the new positions, besides the appropriation, the HR director, assistant town manager would be a position within the salary administration plan. So per the salary administration plan, the department head, myself, would propose a new job description and propose compensation classification to the personnel committee that, if approved, would need to be voted at a town meeting to be added to the salary administration plan grid. The library, the additional hours added upon approval of the omnibus budget at town meeting, that's all that would be necessary. The police would be follow the collective bargaining agreement and posting of that position to fill that position. And the parks would be similar to the HR director. Department head would propose a new job description and propose compensation classification to the personnel committee that, if approved, would need to be voted at a town meeting to be added to the salary administration plan grid. And that's, in essence, in a nutshell, of the highlights of the budget.
So this talks to the various iterations of the budget, starting with the very preliminary 5-year forecast, the first target budgets, the various versions back and forth, as we get more detailed data, for instance, the medical insurance numbers getting more exact, doesn't yet really take into consideration the final state numbers, right? Because we don't get them
Correct.
till later in the process.
Those won't
But
be
the-
final until July.
But this is kind of the typical iterations back and forth through various versions of the budget and various sessions with the finance committee and the schools, et cetera. And this is just kind of where we are right now. And the next, I guess it tries to come all together by the finance public hearing, if I'm not
Correct.
mistaken, right?
Yes. Yeah. So the budget process is a fluid process. You know, new information becomes available, the assessments become known, and it's updated at that point.
And I guess I'd like to say, in response to your opening comments about, presenting it at this level of detail to the Board of Selectmen, traditionally, we have always done it either, the very first presentation, either at the Finance Committee or the Board of Selectmen meeting. And I can remember over the years, sometimes the finance folks would come to our meeting and sometimes we'd go to theirs. This time around, while we did get it in writing, it was scheduled to be done at the Finance Committee meeting, and I happened to be the only one that went, but it was available to all of us. It may be a good idea to actually work it into the agenda to make sure we do it at both places. so
On
that-
the agenda when you were out of town? Was this what we missed?
Yeah,
I feel
that
like it was
was
on
the
the
date.
agenda, but you hadn't flown back. So I feel like
Okay.
we were supposed to hear
Okay.
it prior to,
Good.
and then thought
right.
maybe in lieu of that, we would do the Finance Committee meeting if available, but it had been on an agenda that just,
Good.
You're right.
And it should be. I agree that's a good improvement. I'm just thinking back to the Kerry days. We used to do it at either finance or selectmen, and it was just to make it easier, we kind of all showed up at the same place. But it probably makes sense to do it in two places. It gives us two chances to
Yes.
discuss it and look at it as
No,
well.
I agree, that would be an improvement.
Yep.
I like the FY '20 personnel highlights, but would you consider adding the HR director, assistant manager, town manager, an organizational change?
No, it's not adding a new division to the
What about
organization.
park director?
No, still under, there used to be a parks position that went away with budget cuts, I believe, years back.
I don't remember that. Do you remember having a parks director ever?
Just many,
Not since
not a
I've been
director.
following.
I
Not a
think it was
director. We had a manager of some sort. I think it included the beaches and stuff as well.
but I think, Mr. Chair, if I may too,
Sure.
there is a bit of a question here in the sense that when I started getting involved, it was advocating for an increased police officer for the school resource officer, and really studied, how important and how expensive it is to add staff. And there are staff here that were added without any awareness to us. The HR director, assistant town manager, where was that position born from, and how did it just show up?
born out of myself identifying as a priority need.
But when the land use director position was created, it was sold to the Board of Selectmen that the land use director would be the assistant town manager. So we already have an assistant town manager.
That's never been instituted.
Yeah, and I don't remember it that way as well.
If you don't mind, just for the sake of understanding, what work is it that you can't accomplish that you're looking to have this person do?
Wait a minute.
No, I'm just trying to understand the
Okay, but
position.
can
and
I
think
just
that's-
can I just set some parameters here? I do believe that Mrs. Luck's question did say, is it an organizational change? And it's not. I think that when we talk about organizational changes, it is something that the board does want to get involved in. When we talked about a growth of the police department in terms of multiple offices over 10 years, it's something that the Board of Selectmen wanted to get involved in. When we talk about how many, how an existing organization does their work and how many people are required and where they sit and what duties they do, I believe that's under the direction of the managers of those departments. And I don't believe it's our role to get, certainly we can ask questions, and we can, I'm sure the town manager would be happy to share with us.
Mr. Chair, if I may
No,
have an
if I
answer
could
to
finish
that
my
question.
sentence, please, once.
I just asked a question and
Yeah,
I'm.
but I'm not finished talking. All right? Certainly some questions, if you have questions, that's fine. But I think it's important to set the stage that organizational questions are handled by the department heads, and our discussion should be at the budget level. Go right ahead.
Well, I already asked the question.
Well, I didn't hear it because I was finishing my statement.
No, I asked it before you started the statement.
I'm sorry. Can you repeat it?
I asked what work it is that you can't accomplish in your role that requires an assistant, including the fact that we already have the executive assistant, Elaine. So I'm just wondering, because one of my thought process is oftentimes there's things that I feel like I would like to participate in, like if there's projects and putting together grant priorities. If there's things that you feel you can't do, there's volunteers, including myself, that would take on additional roles and participate, just like I attend like a Montechusett Regional Planning Commission and come back and report. If there's things that need to be done at this level, I think maybe we could look to accomplish the needs that aren't being met utilizing the volunteers that are here at a huge cost savings to the town. And I know there's things that I would have, volunteered, like I'd love to get more involved in the ADA group that hasn't been formed to my knowledge, and different things. And so I don't understand why we're making a paid position without looking for alternative ways to get work done, utilizing the people that are here sort of ready to do it.
And further, a part-time HR director, assistant town manager at 28 hours gets all of the benefits, so adds to OPEB, health and benefits. It's the same as adding a full-time employee.
I'd
'Cause
rather
you're-
see more patrol officers or more EMTs. I just don't know where this position is born out of, and we haven't really discussed the need. If you go through and look at, your evaluations from last year, never did we have it surface that there was a need for this position. And so it's just funny that it would seem to be
But
born out
our
of
role
nowhere.
as selectmen is governance, not management.
I'm just
And,
thinking
and,
from a
and
budget
we're not looking for
perspective.
volunteers to do town work.
Well, we are volunteers doing town work, so I'm very confused.
And there are the work of this town couldn't get done without volunteers. And in your position as chair, you define the agenda and run the meetings. I don't think it's your position to tell us what our job is.
No, but I'm also a selectman, and I'm not telling you anything. I'm giving you my opinion.
Okay, all
All
right. All right, and I happen to have a different opinion.
The HR director, I don't think is a position for volunteer personnel. It's because it's a lot of confidential information that should be by a paid town employee.
Yes, and the town actually has an HR director at the schools. Why can't we take a little bit of his time? Nancy Forrest is the personnel person in town hall. Why can't he direct her? Maybe Nancy Forrest, maybe we could take some of the people that work in town hall and have them work on Fridays to add to the amount we're able to get done without adding a person.
Because another person is more benefits. If there's somebody willing to take on more hours who's already receiving benefits of the town, I think that would be.
Elaine is a fabulous executive administrator, and she does a great deal more than the executive assistant who was here before. When Karen Brochu was elevated to finance director, part of that sale was she's going to take responsibilities that the town manager was then doing and add more to her plate. So we said, okay, we'll get an assistant town manager in the land use director. Okay, we'll elevate the town accountant to finance director. She'll do more of that. Okay, we'll get a great administrative assistant so she can take on. So 3 people have taken on more roles.
But, okay, this is a pattern that I have noticed, is that we continue to add on responsibilities to every position in town, including the land use director. The land use director position is a full-time position in itself.
But when he was hired, it was with the understanding that he would be the assistant town manager.
Okay, I had no part in that. I'm telling you what my recommendation is as town manager today.
But I'm saying, you know, it was like a bait and switch.
Again, I had no
both
part
of
of
them.
that.
No, I'm afraid I disagree with that. We said when we created that position then that we were trying to replace a planning director with a land use manager. We added responsibilities for all the other land use departments and said that one of the potentials is it could grow into an assistant town manager. It never did.
He always was the temporary assistant town manager whenever the town manager was away.
No, that's not true. That is not true.
He's acted as
This
a
very
general
last
plan
time
manager.
he
The
didn't.
very last time,
He
and
didn't. That
we've
was the
had the
only
police
time.
chief do that job. We've had the DPW director do that job in various temporary absences.
I don't recall that.
And I really do believe that we're in spaces that we're, as the Board of Selectmen, are not, it's not our role.
So why didn't we discuss the creation of a new position in any sort of public way? Like, how can?
Because it's not our responsibility. The budget is our responsibility.
All right.
That,
So then,
in this case, it is our responsibility
getting
to
down
discuss
to-
a budget item.
so this is a budget item.
Right.
So
And-
then it's our responsibility.
And I have seen adding staff turned into month-long debates and discussions just in terms of one patrol officer. So in terms
It
of a
wasn't one patrol officer, it was a
No, I'm talking
10-year
about a
growth
year
plan.
no, I'm talking about before that growth plan was, I'm talking about when I did work on advocating, it was before that 10-year growth plan was established. And an intense amount of work that's put into, and actually, the years prior to my advocating, the police department had asked for an additional position for years, and it hadn't been funded. And so adding staff has always been an item of great pause and great stress. And I've sat through so many finance committee meetings where people will really stop and say, this is a great expense to the town to add bodies. And
It's always been our goal.
we've always really made a
do it
big deal about
cautiously.
it. So I don't understand why we wouldn't exercise that same caution with this position that I'm not even sure we need. We have a really small board tonight, so it really wouldn't accomplish anything, but I would just like to formally make a motion that the selectmen don't support the addition of this position without more evidence that it is truly not something we can accomplish with other means.
I'd second that.
We've had an agreement that when we make important decisions, we try to do it with the full board, and I would request that we don't act on that motion.
Is that a formal policy? I mean, I wouldn't even come here tonight if we can't act as a meeting. I will just go home. I mean, I think it's a misuse of time to not be able to function a meeting with those who attend.
What we agreed to as a
Who agreed
practice.
and where?
The board.
I've never agreed to this. I am on the board.
Well, I have a motion and a second. I don't believe it's in the best interest of the board to vote on this until we're all here and we've had a full discussion. It's not on the agenda as an item to make a decision on staffing that's not in our realm. But all those in favor,
Aye.
Aye.
those opposed, aye or nay.
Does that also follow for the parks position and the library hours?
No, that was specific for that one.
No.
Please public comment at the end.
Is there any other discussion on the town manager's preliminary budget?
Yeah, when there was a request, not even to add a new hire, but to take a hire for the fire department, the EMT, and advance it 1 year. The proponent of that position had to articulate everything practically down to the cost of the shoelaces the guy was going to wear. And there has been nothing provided with these positions to articulate what the expense is going to be. So I think that...
There were a lot more associated costs with a firefighter, including...
But there aren't any, all you're saying
wasn't
here
done
is
at budget
28 hours a
time.
week. Of course it was done during budget time.
And with whose assistance did that occur? With my assistance. I worked with...
I'm just saying that this information is much less full than the information that was required of the proponent of that. And so that I expect the same amount of rigor to go into any positions that you're suggesting.
And Mr. Chair, if I may, we're discussing a budget, millions of dollars, and we're trying to discuss it and think about it. And it like so many other things, it becomes confrontational. And I feel the town manager and the chair are being confrontational with us just simply thinking about costs, and that's the whole point of a budget season. It's just discouraging to feel like discussion is discouraged.
I'm discouraged as well. I'm discouraged in a lack of support by a recommendation for a need that I'm identifying.
I think if you
town.
sought support before you added it to the budget and made us aware that it was a need.
This is the venue I'm seeking support.
And it's
think
been
it
on the
should have been-
table since February.
But it showed up in the budget without being
Discussed ahead of
presented
time.
as an idea of a need.
Well, you've already,
The first time it appeared was in a budget. It was never brought up as a need, a pre-budgetary need.
And actually, the same thing as the seasonal parks director, in my opinion. It's like it just seems, it just came from nowhere. I mean, does the seasonal park director just work in the summer?
It would be for the season, for spring through summer.
What season is it?
It'd be no more than 4 months as declared as seasonal position B.
So would you get a college kid? I mean, I just don't understand where you get somebody to work spring and summer. And I don't know what
do you
they
really
do.
believe it's the role of the selectmen to get down to that level of detail when we have paid professional people to manage the town?
Yeah, I do.
We're discussing the budget. I think it's
Would-
extremely
these-
appropriate.
These are in the
That's
budget.
fine, then we disagree totally on the role of a selectman.
It's the budget. I think that we should know what they're going to be paid, if they're going to have any benefits. I think that's part of the budget.
Well, part of and I outlined the process for the pay scale would be through the personnel committee. That's their role.
Then that should be done before you present it.
That would make them do an awful lot of work that we may or may not get town meeting to approve the position.
It would be safer to understand the position before it was approved.
It's the way it works.
Doesn't mean it should be.
No, but it's the way it works. The selectmen do not get into the actual management of this town.
Well, it seems you have.
What would you have us do with this topic now?
I guess I'd like more information on the recreation person. So I'd request that,
I can tell you a little
as
more
well
of the
as the HR
background.
assistant TM. It can be at the next meeting. You don't have to, if you don't have it, you don't have to provide it.
Just a little background on the recreation position. It was from attending meetings with the Parks Commission, discussing their needs of having no paid staff to perform a variety of tasks that sometimes fall on volunteer people that have very limited time and access to information that would be much more easily readable for paid staff to perform, as well as increasing the programming for the Parks Commission. They're looking at long-term solutions. And so that's where the
Long-term
impetus
solutions for what?
for overall their parks plan. They're looking at doing a feasibility study.
What?
For the parks.
Feasibility study for the parks. I guess I don't understand. What's a feasibility study for the parks?
What are the needs of the parks? Are they addressing, do they have parks that meet all the needs of the community? Whether
We
it's
already know they
enough.
don't.
But we have a Parks Commission.
Right, I'm just trying to understand, you know.
Yeah.
That's really as beyond the role of the recreation director, but it really is administrative and to work on programming.
Yeah, I guess I just don't understand the
And
need.
the original discussion was revolved around a full-time person, but they, after discussions with the Parks Commission and the DPW director, there really is not a need for a full-time person at this time.
I don't know, I think when you take the big picture and look at the needs of the town, I think an engineer, a town engineer, would save the town a ton of money in consulting costs. I mean, you know, that's a really serious need.
Where did that come from?
Where did that go? Well, it came from my understanding of how much we're spending on engineering consulting. You know, you have to look at the big picture. You can't look at...
I'm trying to look at the big picture, but we're getting drawn into, you know, how many clerks we have.
I'm not saying that I'm saying if you look at needs above HR director, assistant town manager, above a rec director, a town engineer would save the town a ton of money instantly.
We don't have a position open for that right
Yeah, I know, but when I look at what I understand about the way the town runs, from way back where I'm sitting, that's a way more important need than either of these things. So, just saying, I don't think this is well thought out.
Yeah, in the office every day, talk to, you know, my department heads. So I see the need maybe from a different perspective.
Yes, a very different perspective. So I guess, you know, I certainly want it fleshed out exactly what those positions will do and what they're going to cost.
Okay, for what purpose? I mean, what are we going to do with that information?
Understand the position.
Yeah, and decide whether we support it or not.
I thought you voted that you didn't support
No,
it.
the town in terms of giving,
Yeah,
I mean, it's a budget item and the budget goes through the legislative branch, which is town meeting. And if I was sitting on the other side, I think I'd be like, well, what exactly are these positions? And I guess just for the sake of consistency, we certainly put things like additional patrol officers through a lot of discussion and thought. So I don't know why other jobs wouldn't be given the same amount of attention.
But I think if you talk to the police and fire chiefs, they advocated for additional personnel for many years. And when and the town manager, I don't believe, included them in the proposed budget. And when I came, I did include them in the proposed budget.
No, I know, and I think one thing when Phyllis says, are there other staff positions we need in town, I think you always want to stop and reflect when we're adding something. Is there something else that could be added, or could this money just simply be saved? And I don't think it's meant to be confrontational more than it is to be thoughtful, and I think that's the intent of the whole process, is to give the budget a great deal of thought, because everything that's funded is at the cost of something that is unfunded.
Yeah, and I hope it's known that I spend a lot of time.
Nobody's debating the time,
Yep.
we're
I
just
just wanna,
talking about
you
the
know,
budget.
Yep. I'm not being confrontational. I'm just saying I also, want to.
I mean, is it time to
Hopefully it's
open
clear
offices
that I
5 days a
spend-
week and just give more hours to everybody to run a town 5 days a week instead of add more positions at 4 days a week? I mean, if things aren't getting done, maybe there's a structural problem with the way we're running the town that isn't adding more staff to still just run a 4-day-a-week town. If we have more money available, maybe more hours to the staff we already have would help us run more efficiently. I think there's a big discussion to be had here. If the work can't or isn't being done in the established format that we have, let's more air out what is broken, what needs to be done, and if there's other ways to solve it with who we have. If there's people here willing to take more hours who already pull on benefits and are here, maybe it's time to look at being open on Fridays.
If there
and
was,
adding
this is a
hours.
special skill set, and that, I mean, if we had a staff member that could work more hours to do that work.
What is the
then
special skill set? What precisely?
being an HR director?
An HR director is a very special skill set in terms of employee relations, in terms of understanding affirmative action and equal employment, in terms of understanding disciplinary procedures, in terms of understanding motivation, hiring, firing.
But is Heather capable of doing that as her
It's not
job?
her job description. She's responsible for it, but it's not her job description to do that. And the more
does it
time,
now?
and the more time she's, well, it's not getting done very well.
Who does
Well,
it now?
doesn't
Line,
Nancy,
line managers do a piece of it.
doesn't
Heather handles the exceptions and the problems.
doesn't Nancy Forrest do some of it?
No, she's an administrator
benefits.
for payroll and benefits, which is a big job in and of itself.
Okay. So none of what she does falls under the HR director?
Sometime, but a lot of questions get directed to me for a response.
But couldn't we ask the HR director at the schools to help out?
I think we ought to ask the person we pay as a manager of the town good money to make a recommendation, not second guess her. And she made a recommendation.
I think that it has been our policy to look 6 ways to Sunday before adding headcount.
I'm not saying, if you don't want to add this, that's fine. That's a different discussion. But going in and telling the town manager, who's a paid professional, how many people, what they ought to do, what their job descriptions ought to be, is not the scope of our work. If you want to say we don't want to afford it, we don't recommend putting the money to it, that certainly is your purview.
And Mr. Chair, it is a responsibility of the selectmen to evaluate the town manager and her needs. I mean, that we're going through that process right now. And I think a lot of what we're discussing falls under, is she not meeting something? I mean, I think there's I don't know. This is not an opinion, but it's just part of this process. If we run this town 4 days a week, and there's a request to add another staff member, maybe we need to add more hours and utilize the staff we have, because I think if you start adding more people, you convolute things rather than just maybe we open back up on Fridays.
Just add another layer instead of adding efficiency often.
Yeah, and that was a very painful process a number of years ago to meet a significant financial crisis.
But if we have more
And
money
if
now.
you have the money to open 4 days a week, I think 5 days a week, I think it's fantastic. I'd like to see you recommend that to town meeting.
Or maybe even Friday mornings or something. I mean,
Oh,
we're
sure,
adding
sure.
money to staff.
Mhm.
Can we move on to the next agenda?
Yeah, I apologize, Mr. Passios. Did you want to make a point? I don't want to put you on the spot either, but I was,
I think that point I will hold.
okay.
Thank you.
I do apologize. Okay, now we're getting into the discussion of the annual town meeting warrant articles. We have a first draft of all the articles in here. We have tonight and our next meeting to kind of finalize them before the warrant closes. Again, I remind us that we kind of agreed that we weren't going to make any huge decisions unless we were all here, but
When did we agree that? I need some understanding.
it may have been prior to you joining the board, but it's been a board practice for as long as I can remember. That, and I think it's written down someplace, actually. I remember reading it. That whenever possible, we would hold important votes till the whole board was here. Now, it was, I'll acknowledge the fact that it was when we had a 5-person board, and it's probably even more important with a 4-person board at the moment, but we did in fact say, and it is written down, and I'll find it by next week, that when possible, we would hold off on major decisions if we could.
And this is just something a previous board voted on?
The board.
Well, then if I wasn't a member of that board, I don't think that vote would play into the way we operate.
Well, you don't have to accept it, but the board is the board. It doesn't change every time a new member joins or leaves.
But maybe, maybe as an action item, we should discuss that again.
Have it be a policy that we can formally quote rather than just decide whether or not we are allowing participation.
We did just vote.
But you keep asking us not to.
Yeah, I do.
So do you not want to discuss the ATM?
No, I
warrant
want to
articles?
discuss the ATM. I think it's important that we have the
Prefer not to
discussion.
discuss them if we're not allowed to take action on them.
You're allowed to do whatever you'd like to, Mrs. Adams. It was a courtesy that the board,
Mr. Chair, I would like to make my comment if I could when it's appropriate.
please.
It is now. And this is just. Dave Passios, 56 Whiting Street. In regards to the vote you took a little bit earlier, that's a blatant disregard for open meeting law. If you read the way it's listed on the agenda, it says discussion of town manager evaluation process and timeline, period.
That's not what we're doing.
That's not where we are.
You were when you made that vote.
No.
No,
No,
Presentation and discussion of town manager preliminary
current
budget.
business.
we're on the.
Okay, well,
talking
even
about the
there,
budget.
there's nothing said, nothing discussed about taking a vote. If you look at the differentiation down in old business then, the discussion of town manager evaluation process timeline is very similar to what, is a subject, a different subject, but you're discussing it up here. You go to the next one and you say, vote may be taken. That's what I believe is required if you're going to take a vote on something at a meeting like this. Otherwise, the public is not aware that you're going to take a vote. Thank you. That's a point of order.
It is a point of order, Mr. Passios. I'm not sure it's required to actually say that, but I will look into it and clarify
I'll look into
that.
it as well. I've studied open meeting law quite extensively, and I don't recall vote may be taken needing to be listed, although I agree with you, it would be nice to have in there. It does say that it's going to be on the agenda as part of a discussion. So I think there's a little bit of gray area there.
Yeah, and I do believe in the past we have taken votes when the words vote may be taken were not there. I think we often take votes when those words aren't there. But it would be good, don't you?
For
don't you agree
example,
we've
with the
done that?
pilot agreement, we took a vote.
I don't think it's
and it
required,
doesn't
but
say vote may be
it's good
taken.
practice if we know it's going to happen.
Yeah, right,
You know.
right. Maybe we should put that vote may be taken next to everything, just in case.
Well, I mean,
Well, that's what waters it down to the point where it.
correct, because the
Right.
7-10 appointment where we had the solar pilot agreement, we made a motion and took a vote, and it does not say there that vote may be taken, and yet we did. And so if we're doing something incorrectly, it's in a global sense.
Right,
And
right,
not just
right.
specifically to that item we discussed.
So we should definitely clear that up.
Sure.
All right, so in your package is the current draft of the warrant for the May 4th
Oh.
annual town meeting.
And Mr. Chair, if I may, I'm just thinking, we took a vote even on Stephanie Carlson. So throughout this entire agenda, we've been voting and eyeing.
And
Without
on
saying
the
vote may be
cultural
taken.
council too.
Yeah. So I'm not sure if that really,
If it's a rule, we've been breaking it right and left.
down the entire agenda.
I don't believe it's required, but I will confirm that.
Okay,
Thank
thank
you.
you.
So we have article. You want
You want
to
me to go through 'em?
Yeah, please. Article 1.
Article 1, to hear and accept regular written reports, the town officers and committees. It's not up here right now, I don't want to. Article 2 is to amend the table for the annual revolving funds. Article 3 is to reauthorize the spending limits for those revolving funds. Article 4 is an annual article for if there were any prior year expenses. Article 5 is to amend any amounts voted for the fiscal 19 budget. Article 6 is the capital plan for fiscal 20. Article 7 is the,
Stop us as we go through if you want to discuss any of these.
Well, I guess I'm wondering about the FY20 capital plan. Is it presented as it appears today, or is there an opportunity to change that?
it would be that what's presented in the report.
What's
And
what's
what I
printed in the
presented.
warrant, right?
Yeah,
What's printed in the warrant, and as of now, is that the same one you presented?
Yes.
Okay.
So is there an opportunity to change that before it's printed?
Not unless that was changed by the public hearing. Because that would
And
be
So when's the public hearing? March?
March 28th.
So March 28th is the last opportunity to change the capital plan. And nothing's been printed by then, so they're not going to say, oh, it's been printed, can't change it now.
And when did we say the warrant closes?
March 25th.
25th.
So we can change it after it's, when is the public hearing?
The 28th.
28th.
After it closes, okay.
So now how does
But
that?
not printed.
So
Okay.
how does that happen? Who has to vote to change the capital plan on the 28th?
The capital plan is, as the town manager per the charter presents it.
Yeah,
Same
so.
as the budget.
So that's what I'm trying to decipher. How do we change the capital plan?
You'd have to amend it on the town
Town
meeting
meeting
floor.
floor.
At this point, we already have to amend it on town meeting floor. I think that's a huge flaw.
But that's what the charter says. The capital planning committee puts it together, it becomes part of the town manager's budget, it goes to the public hearing of the finance committee, and then it goes to town meeting.
So I really think that that's one thing that should be changed in the charter. There should be more opportunity to dig in to the capital plan because
Well, there is at all the capital planning meetings, at the budget meetings, at the finance committee meeting.
But there isn't. There isn't. You know, every time I ask, it's, well, you know, you did capital planning. I only got to one capital planning meeting, and I enjoyed that, but I did not have the opportunity to go to the rest. If you have to go to every capital planning meeting to have an opportunity to have anything to say about the capital plan, I think that's a flaw in the process. Once
Well,
the
you have an opportunity to say something at town meeting.
But that's why town meeting lasts 3 days.
Yeah.
There should be more opportunity. Once the capital plan is assembled, then should be the opportunity to dig into it. At the a recent planning board meeting, Paula Bertram said, why are we spending money on a master plan? We haven't even read the economic development plan that we already paid for and received. Let's read that before we spend more money to get something else done. I mean, to me, that's brilliant. And there's no opportunity to discuss that. That's $50,000, and it's $100,000 because it goes over 2 years. That's a lot of money to be spent on something, and I don't know what they spent on the economic development plan, but I'm just saying there needs to be more opportunity to discuss this once it's set before we get to town meeting, because that's why town meeting takes so long, because no one has.
But that's our form of government, Phyllis.
But we could change it.
At town meeting. through a budget change, through a charter change.
But nobody's requesting, you know,
I'm not. If you are, go to it.
I'm just saying, it's set in stone way too early. That's all.
Okay.
So the next opportunity to change the capital plan is at town meeting.
Mm-hmm.
Let me move on.
Mm-hmm.
Article 7 to, for the omnibus budget, fiscal 20 omnibus budget. Article 8 is to replace the current salary schedule for the administration plan, because we don't have an updated plan for fiscal 20. The Article 9 is to transfer funds to the stabilization fund. Article 10 is to transfer funds to the special purpose stabilization fund. Article 11 to raise and appropriate or transfer funds to the OPEB trust fund. Article 12 to raise and appropriate or transfer funds to operate the sewer enterprise fund for fiscal 20. Article 13 to transfer available funds into the sewer capital reserve stabilization fund. Article 14 to raise and appropriate or transfer funds into the solid waste disposal enterprise fund. Article 15 is to raise and appropriate or transfer funds into the water department water enterprise fund. Article 16 is there's 4 articles related to the public access committee, because they're allowed now to become an enterprise fund. And so one is to establish the enterprise fund. The second article from them is to appropriate money from PEG and cable-related enterprise fund revenues, the sum of $152,000 to fund the operating budget. Article 18 is in the event that the enterprise fund wasn't created, it's to for the operating budget, $152,000. Article 19 is to appropriate from the Comcast Tech Capital Fund the sum of $120,000 to fund the PEG Access Committee capital budget. Article 20 is to appropriate a sum of $35,000 from the sale of cemetery lots to be used for the care and improvement and embellishment of town cemeteries. Article 21 is, we discussed earlier on the agenda, is to authorize the Board of Selectmen to negotiate and enter into a pilot with Borrego Solar for 190 Electric Ave. Article 20 is in 23 and 24 and 25 are the articles that you'll be discussing tonight, and yes or no whether you want those on the warrant. So they're related to the sale of the old primary school building, 30 School Street, the Brooks House, the sale of the building and land, and another article just for sale of the Brooks House itself, the building, not the land. Article 25 is to appropriate money for the design and engineering to consolidate town offices, school offices, and community space at the TCP. And that's for site evaluation, engineering, and final design services. Article 26 through 32 are all the articles from the planning board regarding recreational marijuana. So all the different marijuana researcher, marijuana transporter, retail, and the regulations.
Now, I have a question. On Article 26, where it says, to see if the town will vote to amend the Code of Lunenburg to delete temporary moratorium and replace it with Section 250-4.15, non-marijuana establishments or anything relative thereto. Will that section be available for the voters to see at town meeting?
Yes.
Great.
It won't be printed in the warrant. It's 8 pages long.
How many?
8.
8.
But it will be available at various locations. It'll be on our website. We'll put it up on Facebook. We'll be.
But will it be at town meeting in printed form so people can have it?
You mean 200 copies of that or so?
Well, certainly 75 anyway.
We can
I mean,
arrange
because
that.
if you're asking people to vote for something, if they don't even know what it is, how are they going to vote?
We can arrange that.
Thank you.
Article 33 is the article that the board already took a vote on about imposing an excise on retail sales of marijuana at the rate of 3% of total sales. Article 34, this is just the draft, so we do have a citizen's petition to rezone 131 Leominster Road. Article 35, 36, 37, and 38 relate to the charter. And that is all articles at this point that we've received. I am suspecting we'll receive at least one more from Planning Board and unsure of any more others.
What's the other one from Planning Board?
Something I'm not sure specifically, it's something the Planning Board's been working on with Town Council.
Is it the land division one?
Could be, or cluster zoning.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, that's good.
Okay.
So the organization, the numbering is not set in stone at this point.
No, I would recommend we do the budget at the beginning like we normally do, because we need to operate the next year.
Yeah.
So,
There was a suggestion during public session that we take the ones we usually vote for and put them at the end, but they're the ones that we really need to run the town. They don't require a lot of discussion, but if we lose a quorum or if it goes till Monday night or something like that, my question is that, I believe it's the moderator who determines at some point, unless we kind of set it up front as here's the schedule. I think if you just go in and say, we're going to start on Saturday morning at 9 o'clock and go till it's done, it's the moderator who kind of has the ability to ask the floor to continue it to whenever. And I guess they almost decide on the spot, right?
right.
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 Well, I was thinking about the citizen's comment about putting things like the town clerk not way at the end, because that's an important thing that people are concerned about. And, another thought is, if we don't think we have the time for this, don't even put it on the warrant this time. We're electing a town clerk in May. We've got 3 years to figure it out. It's not imminent.
I think that discussion is for tomorrow night. The charter committee is the one that decides what's going on and what's not going on.
But, if it does go on, I think, certainly the town clerk should be moved up, because I do think that people feel very strongly about that, one way or the other. And I also feel like I think the charter is the most important thing about the town government, and to leave it to last is disrespectful. It should be as close to the front as it can be. It certainly should be before the zoning change on citizen petition to rezone 131 Leominster Road. I think if we can't get to that, then I don't think the town's going to fall apart.
I think, let's put it in context. The recommendation to go to Saturday and Monday was made by the moderator and the town council.
Oh, yeah, but I'm
Just
not,
based
I'm,
on-
I'm
so
actually
we're-
not talking about that right
well,
now.
all we really have any authority to do is to say the scheduling of it.
Right.
You know, what goes on from a charter point of view is up to the charter. We can deal with numbering. I'd be very careful about dealing with numbering, because, you know, my most important one is not your most important one, and not somebody else's most
Yet
important one.
it's been put
you
as
know.
a list in
Right.
some context that I think.
Yeah,
could be
so
discussed.
basically, I'm just talking about the numbering right now. I'm not talking about any of that other stuff. Where things appear in the warrant, and, you know, I was reminded by the citizens' comment. You know, it is important to many people.
No, I agree. I agree. I mean, and I think
So
you
that
can-
is what we have some
you
say
can, you
over.
can kind of look at it in there's a series of articles for marijuana, there's a series of articles for the charter, there's a series of articles for doing business, you know, as the town, and then there's the ones that are unique to this particular town meeting. You know, like the citizens petition, or the
pilot.
the property ones, et cetera. You know.
But I would think the pilot and the citizen petition should be at the end. You know, what's important should be first.
When do we have to make this decision?
You vote on the actual warrant on the 2nd. April 2nd is the last day.
Okay.
But
Is
I
that a
would
meeting
say by
date?
your,
Yeah, for a second.
and it doesn't close, the warrant doesn't close till the 25th, so that's really
The opportunity.
the
right.
opportunity. But if you're thinking you want to move articles, I'd rather do that now.
Like now, tonight, or now by next week's meeting?
By next week would be fine,
Yeah,
but
okay.
in advance of the 2nd.
Because what I would suggest is if you have some specific recommendations on ordering this, you know, let's do the ordering. You know, we can do it we know that there are X numbers on marijuana, there are X numbers on the charter. We'll know more about the charter after tomorrow night, because we're gonna have a vote on what's, you know, we think these are
Hopefully.
the ones, but we don't know.
You know, we may have one more meeting, but hopefully it'll
Right.
get all figured
Well,
out.
we'll have it
tomorrow.
by the time we meet again.
Obviously, as you mentioned, the articles that determine running the government and the budget, or those have to be first, just so that we can keep.
We have to
keep
know
the ship
they're gonna
afloat.
happen.
So everything up until 20,
Yeah.
really.
So we got to keep the ship afloat, would you say?
Correct, and I
Okay.
think that would be a good way to look at it, because I was trying in my mind to weigh the marijuana articles versus the charter. And if you don't get the charter, we have a charter.
Yes.
But if you don't get the marijuana ones in, then we don't have regulations
Right.
moving into. So I think that's a good way to gauge it, is what is the consequence of not getting through it, or well, we'll get through all of them anyways, but in one way or another. Are we formally on the discussion of how to schedule town meeting?
No, I think we're just on discussing about ATM warrant articles, and I was talking about order. You know, like 21, the pilot agreement, stick that at the end. The Leominster Road rezoning, stick that at the
And
end.
I agree, because sometimes those pocket ones have crowds that come specifically to come and go, and you really want to encourage that their participation is for the entire meeting.
Make 'em stay there.
It's always hard when that really, hot topic article ends and you see 20 people leave. And so maybe if those ones are at the end, really big crowd.
And you're right, you know, the charter is not broken, you know.
Whereas the
town-
marijuana needs the regulation, so I think that would be a good way to go through it. So that makes sense.
So does that help you at all?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Now, there's an item 3 under old business, but it has to do with warrant articles, and it's the 4 that are relative to the buildings. Do we want to dive into them tonight, or do we want to hold them till next week?
I think it's more fair to hold them till Damon's here.
Yeah, I mean, we can hold them. And
Okay.
in that case, I think we just shouldn't discuss them, because I think we'll be
Right.
very redundant if we get
Yep.
into it tonight and then
I'm okay with that.
redo it.
I'm okay with that.
Save our
And,
thoughts.
and then in terms of whether it's a 1-day or a 2-day meeting, can that hold till next week as well? Because it
Yes.
probably has a lot to do with the numbering.
Well,
Well,
it
at
has to
least
do
it's
with the numbering and
impacted by
also has to do with notification to when we print the warrant.
Right.
It would say adjournment on such and such date. That's essentially.
Mr. Chair, if I may make a comment on that topic, since it has been something a lot of people have talked about and voiced about. And so I put a lot of thought into like, what is the compromise? The people who are concerned that the meeting could take too long want to divide it out, and some people specifically want to highlight certain topics for certain nights. Then some people just want it to be left alone, let it run as it's one day, see what happens. I think if we highly anticipate it's a long meeting, we should advertise, save the date. We believe that this will be long enough to carry over to 2 days, but not identify what we're carrying over. If we move quickly through items that we don't anticipate, we're anticipating that marijuana and charter, we could have a situation where somebody moves the question, there's not a lot of people waiting, and there's a big yay or a big nay, and we just don't know that. And so all of a sudden it could be 2 o'clock on Saturday, and we're at the end and we're like, oh, bummer, we all have to come back Monday. So because we can't anticipate the time, I think it would be better to leave it as a Saturday town meeting, but because we know there's a lot of content, just heavily advertise what it would carry over to. So people are very aware that if we don't accomplish this by 5, it would carry over, but not what would carry over, just that the meeting itself would.
And
that's sort of more standard.
And that's what the town has done.
Yep.
Always,
Yeah.
you know, and I actually think it's a novel idea to think about having it on the following Saturday instead of the following Monday. I never even considered that. That's an interesting idea.
Maybe we can have town council check in on that. I mean, I don't think there's any, requirement that we do it one way or the other, but.
I think the only advantage of Monday is to try to keep it close together.
Right.
So the momentum's there, right? Because then by the next
You don't
Saturday,
lose 2 Saturdays.
so hard that time of year with the first communions, graduations, and things making one Saturday. But my hope would be that maybe we get it done, and to plan for the fact that we may not get it done may stall us out. 2 o'clock, we're done, we're at Article 30-something, and we're like, we all have to come back Monday. Bummer.
And there are traditionally this many articles. This is not an unusual.
And there are a lot of hot button issues, but we just don't know what's going to happen, and they could move quick. I mean, sometimes the oddest article is the one that sort of gobbles up the most time.
Oh,
so,
I know it.
So I think we're sort of trying to predict too much by picking certain topics for certain nights, whereas, I think we'll all be aware this could be a long one, but just run it as it's regularly intended to be. Makes me feel more comfortable. I wouldn't know what to pick to put on the other night. It feels like you're giving a disservice to whatever you're choosing to put on the secondary night. I wouldn't know how to feel comfortable about that.
And everybody should bring a sandwich, because we won't be
Yeah, maybe
stopping.
we can have a lunch break.
Oh, no, you can't have a lunch break, because everybody leaves. Bring a
Right.
sandwich.
So
Pack a
should we
lunch.
make
Hold
a
that
vote on
vote.
that, or we'll hold
Do we have
that?
a busy agenda next week, or can we
It's,
hold these over?
it's somewhat busy next week as well.
I mean,
Okay,
do we
so
have an
let's plan
idea
on a
where
long
we
night next
feel
Tuesday.
on that? I mean, if
Maybe
we
we
all
should start
feel
at
the same
6:30 or
way.
something.
Oh, we'll see what we can do. We're just in for a couple
Oh,
of
I
more
thought you meant
meetings.
town meeting. Yes, 6:30 a.m.
Yeah, right. No, I mean, if we have a lot of things that you start a half hour early.
Certainly easier than being here
Too
till
many
11.
meetings have been going till after 10:30. That's dreadful.
And you hear the bell toll 10. It's like, yep.
Okay. So we're going to hold that, let's see, minutes. We have minutes for September, February 19th, warrants.
This one.
Just
I really
one.
appreciate how efficiently and how well Elaine does those minutes.
I have a warrant for accounts payable in the amount of $172,820.99. Any action file issues? Okay. Any critical?
Well, we wanted to have an action file on that vote may be taken issue, like
Yeah,
when
yeah.
we need to.
I got to
when
know,
we don't.
we're gonna look
Yeah,
into
because
that.
we'd have to add it to everything that we do. If that is indeed, and it may be, but anytime we have appointments or anything, we do take votes, and it doesn't say so.
We do have an executive session at the end of this. Is there any critical committee reports?
Nope, not for me.
No, MRPC met last Thursday, but I was unable to attend, so I don't have an update.
Okay, any department reports?
No.
Okay.
Focus meeting, though?
Excuse me?
The focus meeting, we're going to discuss.
Yeah, well, I still have the
Okay.
town
Oh,
manager
sorry.
evaluation process. What I wanted to do, and we don't have to discuss this now, is I have a proposed timeline for the town manager evaluation process. If you want to discuss it, we can, but I'm just suggesting that you take a look at that as a possible timeline, and we can discuss it next week. We have until the 15th of February before it really, why do I keep getting my months screwed up? The 15th of April before it actually takes off.
Well, you know, I have a lot of issues with the evaluation process.
Okay.
The timeline's not a big issue, but the
Okay.
process.
All right, so if you have issues, let's get that on the agenda for next week.
Great.
And this is a suggested timeline that you can deviate from if you have issues.
Great.
All right?
So that should say 4:15.
Which?
The self-evaluation.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. Town manager's self-evaluation, 4:15, that makes sense, because we have to wait until
The 5th.
the year ends April 15th, or the evaluation year ends April 15th.
But if we don't have her evaluation till 4:15, how can we,
You got till the 22nd to actually have,
that's too short.
well, it's all we got. I mean, the
Well, can't she complete the self-evaluation earlier?
year's not over.
But 4:15 isn't the end of the year.
My contract says it begins, my contract evaluation.
It's the end of the
period starts
performance year.
4:15.
It's the end of the performance year.
So then we need more time, because we have to look at her self-evaluation, then we have to write our evaluation, then we have to schedule a time to meet with her. There is not enough time between 4:15 and 4:22.
Okay, but look at the rest of the timeline. It's got to be finished by the election, and that doesn't give anybody else any time to get anything done. Take a look at it. We
Okay.
can talk about it next week.
Okay.
All righty. Okay, so there's an action item. We are scheduled to have a focus group meeting with the public access group and town employees on, pardon me, on March 19th. Thank you. And the recommendation is that 10 a.m.?
1 p.m. was the preferred time.
Okay.
More people could attend at 1 p.m.
Okay,
Less people could attend at 10 a.m.
okay. So this is in addition to our Tuesday night
Correct.
Selectman meeting. We're suggesting a focus group meeting at
So this-
1 o'clock on March 19th.
So that'll be done by 3, you think?
I
Yeah,
think so.
most likely.
Break for supper and come back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so can we go ahead and schedule that? Is that all right?
With me, is that okay with you? Yeah.
Okay. And then our regular schedule is, then we will meet on the night of the 19th. Hopefully, we will do a lot of work on the warrant. The warrant has to be tidied up and finished by April 2nd. And then we meet April 9th and 16th. They're the April meetings. I am going to ask for a motion to enter executive session. Before I do, is there any public comment from the public? Please.
Palacios, 56 Whiting Street. I actually started advocating for this over a year ago, and your discussions earlier about not being willing to hire town employees and add to the salary administration, so on and so forth, the whole discussion really concerns me, because we have a town that's growing, one of the fastest growing towns in the state of Massachusetts, and we are not growing the entities that run this town to respond to that. I understand we have a financial bind, we're always in a financial bind, but if we continually put ourselves behind the 8 ball on recommendations for small growth to help run this town, I think you're doing the town a disservice. I seriously do. This is one place where I do agree that a professional suggesting the needs to operate the town is appropriate, and let the voters at town meeting decide whether they agree with her or not. Thank you.
Thank you. Please.
Clarence Floyd, 720 Goodrich Street. In reference to the schedule, I know we're gonna start at 9 a.m. on May the 4th, and I hope we will just start with that first article and run all the way through. I don't know what you guys have planned for a schedule, but if Jim Smith over there wants to go to lunch, let him go to lunch. Because in the past, we've had meetings and we've had lunch breaks. About 40% of the people never come back.
Right,
Thank you.
right. No lunch breaks.
Agreed.
Pack a sandwich.
Lock the
Thank you.
doors.
Any public comment from the board? Yeah, I'd like to entertain a motion to enter executive session and to adjourn the meeting after such executive session pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 30, Section 21, Reason Number 6, to consider the purchase, exchange, taking, lease, or value of real property if such a discussion may have a detrimental effect on the negotiating position of the governmental body. And this is conservation land.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, Mrs. Adams?
Aye.
Ms. Luck?
Aye.
And I for myself. Good night, everybody. Thank you.